time before time, long before mortals took their first breath, there was a world shaped by primal forces, where gods walked the earth and ruled the cosmos with absolute power. At the heart of this ancient order were the Titans, mighty beings born from the union of the sky and the earth, each of them wielding immense power over the elements and the very fabric of the universe. At their head stood Cronus, the Titan king, a towering figure whose strength was unmatched, his scythe sharp enough to carve through the heavens themselves. Cronus had taken his throne by force, overthrowing his own father, Uranus, and seizing control of the universe. But his rule was haunted by a prophecy, a whisper of fate that foretold his own downfall at the hands of his children. Consumed by fear, Cronus sought to defy the prophecy. One by one, he devoured each of his children at birth: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, condemning them to darkness inside his belly. His grip on power was absolute, and the world trembled beneath his reign. But one child was spared. Rhea, Cronus's wife and queen of the Titans, could not bear the thought of losing another child. Desperate to save her newborn son, she hatched a daring plan. Instead of handing over her infant to Cronus, she hid the child away on the island of Crete, far from her husband's reach. That child was Zeus, the youngest of the Olympians, destined to challenge his father's tyranny. In secret, Zeus was raised, nurtured by the nymphs and watched over by the goat Amalthea, until the time came for him to fulfill his destiny. But Zeus could not overthrow Cronus alone. He needed allies, and he needed power beyond anything the world had ever seen. Deep within the underworld, the god of death and shadow, Hades, awaited his moment. His eyes, as dark as the abyss he ruled, reflected his quiet determination. Beside him stood his brother Poseidon, lord of the seas, whose trident commanded the oceans and whose rage could shake the very earth. Together, they would join forces with their youngest brother, Zeus, to reclaim their place in the cosmos. Among them was the proud and powerful Hera, future queen of the gods, her beauty matched only by her fierce intelligence. And then there was Demeter, goddess of the harvest, whose connection to the earth itself would fuel her resolve to bring an end to Cronus's reign. Lastly, Hestia, goddess of the hearth and home, stood quietly but with steadfast loyalty, embodying the warmth and stability that would help restore balance to the world. But the Titans would not fall so easily. At Cronus' side were the greatest of his kind, Hyperion, the blazing titan of the sun, whose fiery gaze could scorch the sky itself; Oceanus, the vast and ancient ruler of the seas, whose waters could drown the earth in a moment; and Atlas, whose strength was unmatched, forever carrying the heavens upon his shoulders. Even in the depths of their forge, the Cyclopes, massive, one-eyed giants, were hard at work, crafting weapons of unimaginable power. For it was they who would gift the Olympians the tools they would need: the thunderbolt for Zeus, the trident for Poseidon, and the helm of darkness for Hades, artifacts that would tip the scales of the war. And yet, the final battle would be one of overwhelming power, with the 100-handed Hecatoncheires, beings of chaos and fury, waiting in the shadows, their loyalty bound to whoever could truly control the fate of the universe. The Titanomachy was coming, and with it, a war that would tear the heavens asunder and shake the very foundations of existence. Now the time had come for Zeus to confront his father. The prophecy that had haunted Cronus was about to unfold, and the first strike in the war for the cosmos was ready to be made. Long before the giants rose from the earth, before the prophecy that foretold the doom of the gods, there was another war. A war that shook the very foundations of the universe. The Titanomachy, the War of the Titans. Long before mortals walked the earth, before the first seed was sown or the first tree took root, there was chaos. Out of this chaos, the primordial forces emerged, shaping the cosmos and creating the first beings, the Titans. These beings, ancient and mighty, ruled the universe with raw elemental power, and at their head stood Cronus, the most powerful of all. With his great scythe, Cronus had overthrown his father, Uranus, the sky, seizing control of the heavens and the earth. From the moment he took the throne, Cronus was unmatched, his rule absolute. But his reign was also marked by fear. Fear of the prophecy that whispered of his downfall. Cronus knew that as he had overthrown his father, so too would one of his own children rise against him. This prophecy haunted him, gnawing at his every thought. To prevent his fate, Cronus took drastic measures. When his wife, Rhea, bore him children, he swallowed each of them at birth. One by one, his offspring were consumed. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, all trapped in the darkness of their father's belly. To Cronus, this was the only way to maintain his grip on power, the only way to stave off the inevitable. But fate is not so easily denied. When Rhea gave birth to her final child, she could no longer bear the thought of losing another. Desperate to save her son, she devised a plan. Instead of offering her newborn to Cronus, she wrapped a stone in swaddling cloths and handed it to him. Cronus, blinded by his paranoia, swallowed the stone without question, believing it to be his child. Meanwhile, the true infant, Zeus, was hidden away on the island of Crete, far from his father's reach. There, Zeus was raised in secret, nurtured by the nymphs of the island and watched over by the goat Amalthea. As the years passed, Zeus grew into a powerful young god, strong in both body and mind. He was unaware of his true destiny, unaware of the prophecy that had driven his father to such madness. But in time, Zeus learned the truth. He learned of his siblings, swallowed whole by Cronus, and the cruel fate that awaited him if he did not act. The time had come to challenge his father, to bring an end to the tyranny of the Titans. Zeus journeyed to the domain of Cronus, where his father sat upon a black throne, his scythe ever by his side. With cunning and guile, Zeus tricked Cronus into drinking a potion that forced him to vomit up the children he had swallowed so long ago. One by one, they emerged fully grown, filled with anger and righteous fury. Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia stood before Cronus, free at last, ready to take their revenge. But Cronus was not without his allies. The other Titans, vast and powerful, had ruled alongside him for millennia, and they would not stand idly by as the Olympians rose against them. Hyperion, the Titan of the sun, Oceanus, Lord of the seas, Caius, Iapetus, and Atlas, who bore the heavens on his shoulders, all answered Cronus's call to war. The lines were drawn, and the greatest battle in the history of the cosmos was about to begin. The Titanomachy, the War of the Titans, raged for 10 years. The very earth trembled beneath the weight of their conflict. The sky was filled with fire and lightning, the seas churned with fury, and the mountains themselves were torn apart by the sheer force of their battle. On one side stood the Olympians, led by Zeus, young and determined to create a new world, a world free from the tyranny of the Titans. Zeus wielded thunder and lightning, calling down storms to strike at his enemies. By his side, Poseidon raised the seas into towering waves and summoned earthquakes that split the ground. Hades, lord of the underworld, called forth the spirits of the dead to fight alongside his siblings, while Hera, Demeter, and Hestia wielded their own divine powers to challenge the Titans. On the other side stood the Titans, their massive forms casting long shadows over the battlefield. Cronus, with his great scythe, swung at the Olympians with the fury of a father betrayed, his every strike capable of splitting the heavens. Hyperion, his body blazing like the sun, unleashed torrents of fire that scorched the earth, while Oceanus summoned waves that crashed against the land, drowning all in their path. Atlas, ever strong, bore the weight of the heavens, standing as an unmovable force on the battlefield. The war was brutal, and the toll on both sides was great. The Olympians, though powerful, were young and inexperienced, and the Titans, with their millennia of rule, fought with the full force of their ancient strength. The universe itself seemed on the brink of destruction as the two sides clashed again and again, neither willing to yield. But the Olympians had one advantage that the Titans lacked: unity. Though young, they fought as one, their bond as siblings unbreakable. Zeus, ever the leader, rallied his brothers and sisters, and together they devised a plan to defeat their father once and for all. With the help of the Cyclopes, who had been imprisoned by Cronus, Zeus and his siblings were armed with weapons of immense power. The Cyclopes, in gratitude for their freedom, forged for Zeus the thunderbolt, for Poseidon the trident, and for Hades the helm of darkness, which rendered its wearer invisible. Armed with these mighty weapons, the Olympians launched their final assault. The battlefield was a maelstrom of chaos. Cronus, wielding his scythe, met Zeus in the heart of the conflict. father and son, locked in combat, their powers shaking the very foundations of the cosmos. Cronus swung his scythe with all his might, but Zeus, agile and quick, dodged each strike. With a roar of defiance, Zeus hurled his thunderbolt, the weapon crackling with divine energy. The bolt struck Cronus, sending him staggering backward, but still, he did not fall. "You think you can defy me?" Cronus bellowed, his voice shaking the heavens. "I have ruled since time began." Zeus stood tall, his eyes blazing with the light of the storm. "Your time is over. The new gods will rise, and the world will be free of your tyranny." Cronus roared in fury and charged again, but this time, Zeus was ready. He called upon the full power of the storm, summoning a tempest so fierce that even the Titans faltered. Lightning streaked across the sky, striking Cronus with a blinding flash. At that same moment, Poseidon raised his trident, summoning a massive wave that crashed into Cronus' side, knocking him off balance. Hades, wearing his helm of darkness, moved unseen through the battlefield, calling forth the shadows of the underworld to bind their father. With one final strike, Zeus brought down his thunderbolt, and Cronus fell. His mighty form crumbled to the ground, and with him, the reign of the Titans came to an end. But the war was not yet won. Though Cronus had been defeated, the other Titans still stood, their power too great to be easily overcome. Knowing they could not be destroyed completely, Zeus and his siblings made the decision to imprison the Titans in the deepest, darkest pit in the underworld, Tartarus. There, the Titans would remain for all eternity, their power sealed away, guarded by the Hecaton chairs, the 100-handed giants who had once been imprisoned by the Titans themselves. The Olympians emerged victorious, but the cost of the Titanomachy was great. The very fabric of the universe had been reshaped by the conflict. Mountains had been shattered, seas churned into chaos, and the sky torn apart by fire and lightning. The scars of the war ran deep, and the memory of the Titans' rule would linger for eons to come. Zeus, now seated on his throne as king of the gods, looked out over the cosmos. The weight of leadership pressed heavily on his shoulders, but he knew that this was the path fate had chosen for him. He had fulfilled the prophecy, had overthrown his father just as Cronus had overthrown Uranus. But Zeus also knew that the story was far from over. The prophecy had come to pass, but the whispers of fate never truly fade. New threats would always rise, new prophecies would be spoken, and the gods would have to stand ever vigilant. The Titans were locked away in Tartarus, but their power still lingered like a shadow over the rule of the gods. The balance of the universe was delicate, and Zeus knew that peace would not last forever. Even now, as he sat upon his throne, his mind turned to the next great threat, the giants. Born from the earth itself, the giants were rising, seeking revenge for the downfall of the Titans, determined to destroy the gods and take their place. Zeus knew that the battle ahead would be just as fierce, just as destructive as the Titanomachy. The Gigantomachy was coming, and once again the gods would be called to defend their place in the cosmos. The Titans may have fallen, but the echoes of their war still linger. And the gods, no matter how powerful, must always be ready for the next storm on the horizon.